Okay, let's get back into it. We're continuing our series of designing your own fishing lures in Blender. In our first video, we created this shape here, what we're using for a basic fishing lure. Our second video, we covered tools that we're going to need so that you can go ahead and get some of those ordered if that's what you want to do. And in this video, we are going to start getting this ready for FDM printing. We're going to add some holes for line ties. We're going to add some holes for ballast. We're going to determine where we're going to put our hooks. But in order to do that, first we need to determine kind of our fit tolerances for our printer. Every printer is going to be different. Every printer is going to be calibrated differently, tuned differently. Your flow is going to be differently. So what I set as a hole, if I cut a hole out here, what works for me in my line tie or my hook hanger may not work for you. So I want to show you how we can establish let's save this and let's close it, and let's establish some parameters that we can use going forward in every fishing lure that we create. Okay. Again, I'm working in inches. You may want to be working in metric system. The first thing we're going to do is the line tie or the hook hanger. As I discussed earlier, I used twist wire with safety wire pliers, and I measure the once I create a twist, I measure the shank of it at 72 thousandths. That's 0.072. So we're going to create a cylinder. I'm going to pump this up to 96 on my vertices. Let's get my calculator out. So this is the diameter that I measure with my micrometer of my line tie, and I want the radius of it, so 0.36. We're going to plug that in here, and I don't know, let's make it 2 inches. So 0.72 is not going to be big enough. You know, there's tolerances and a little slop when you're printing it. The hole, if I make a hole that's 0.72, the hole may actually come out 0.70 or 0.65. It's going to be different every printer. So we're going to make several of these incrementally larger, and then we're going to take our line tie and we're going to check fit it in each of those 5 holes or however many we print. Another thing that I like to do is, in lieu of making a hole, a cylinder makes sense because we're going to create a line tie and we're going to stick it in here once we print it. Where'd it go? But what sometimes, especially when it's printed horizontally, 3D printers can have trouble with circles. It's going to want supports inside this hole. So what I like to do is, in lieu of that, I like to make a cube. I'm going to make it the same size as our cylinder here. I like to make a cube, and I print them like this, 45 degrees, because printers generally don't have a problem printing things that are at a 45 degree angle, whereas they do have a problem printing this curve right here without having supports under it. So I can print this more reliably on my 3D printer, and also if my line tie fills up this void here, now I have space for the glue or the epoxy or whatever I'm going to put it in with. So with the same idea, we're going to create a block that we're going to 3D print. It's going to have several cylinder holes in it. It's going to have several of these diamond shaped holes in it, different sizes. We're going to print that and see how that works for us. So let's move this. I'm going to take this guy, move it along the line. I don't know. Let's put it 0.3 inches up there. And I know that this 072 needs to be bigger. So even on the first one, I know that 072 is not going to fit. Like, you can't do same size object printed in the same size hole, because this is going to be a little bit smaller. You can change that in your slicer so that it can help you with that, but I prefer to just leave that setting alone. That way I know I can use this on all my models, whether I forget to turn that on or I don't. So I'm going to start with, let's say 075. I'm going to go by fives just to make that easier. So I'm going to create another one of these. I'm going to move it along the x-axis, another 0.3 inches. And we'll go, oops, I'm just going to go up by increments of 5 thousandths on each one. Okay, so we've got 5 of them there, ranging from 75 thousandths of an inch up to 95 thousandths of an inch in 5,000 increments. And I feel like I've done this test with the circles or the cylinders. I've never done this test with the diamonds. I just had some numbers that I figured would work, and they worked okay, but this one I'm actually going to start with 72, and we'll go up in 5 increments of 5 there. So I'm hitting Shift D to duplicate, and then I'm constraining the movement to the x-axis, and I'm moving it to the right 0.3 inches, as you can see up here. I'm going to start with this 072, go up in increments of 5. You can go up incrementally in whatever size you want. I just picked 5. It's easy math. So those each going up another 5 thousandths. And what I'm going to do is we're going to create a block, a cube. We're inside of the giant cube. Let's go 1.5 on the X, and maybe an inch and an inch. And let's see what that looks like. Move it up on the Y. 0.3, because that's what it is, moving everything else. No, I'm sorry, 0.15. Which is half a 3. Half a 30. So I'm gonna cut these holes in here like this so they'll go all the way through. And this is gonna test it along the Z axis. So when we print it, it'll have holes going through it like this, up and down. The tolerances can be different on the x-axis, on your printer's x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. So I want to print similarly, the same size. I want to duplicate them, and I want to go through this way. In order to do that, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's go with 1.6 maybe. And I'm going to move it, no, along the X. That's not going to work. We need to keep, can't print out there. So let's put it like that for now. I need some edge. Well, we can, let's put it to that, and then we're going to move over 150 thousandths. GX. Oh, that's where we were. Okay. Well then, then let's take this and let's move it over. What's the distance from here along the x-axis to this edge? Let's do it this way. Oops. W to select my cursor again. Got these edges selected. I'm going to select them again. G, X. I don't know. Let's go over. I'll just put it there for now. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to select all of these guys. We're going to duplicate them and hit enter. Just leave them where they're at. We're going to rotate along the x-axis 90 degrees like that. So now we've got holes going up, holes going down, or holes going up and holes going sideways. But I don't want them to just be mating, crossing through each other. So let's move it negative 150. That should put them in the middle of each other. Yeah. Okay. See-through, X-ray, whatever. I'm gonna move it to here, and then I'm gonna move it back out. Okay, that's pretty symmetrical. Well, dimensionally, it's got the same edge distance here. It should have here. Now, this cube, I'm going to rename it to block. It's going to make it easier. I wanted to get it out of the pile of other cubes here. So what we can do, select all these guys. So we selected everything that we had up here other than our block. Now, the last thing we want to select will be our block. Hold down Shift. Block. Go over here to edit. We're going to use the bool tool. In the previous video we had used this, which would work, but we'd have to do one for every single object there. I do like using this when it's only one piece, but if it's going to be a bunch of things, it's easier to just go to use the bool tool add-on that we got in the previous video. I like to use brush first. This is going to test it and see what it looks like. Hit difference. There's my holes. And now now that I like it. If you just use the auto Boolean, it's gonna not give you this like test view, and it's not gonna give you the ability to come in and turn things off and on. It's just gonna apply it, and then you can't undo it. Well, you could undo it, but this way, if you use the brush, it kind of gives you like a little test environment. You can see that everything worked out okay. This is how I want it. I want to move some of this stuff around. But I like where it's at, so I'm going to now hit apply all cutters. And that's that. So that does it for our line ties. I also want to test for our ballast. And I'm going to want to create one for little cutout pieces that we're going to use. So let's select this. Before I do that, I'm curious how tall did we say the block was? 1 inch. Okay. Let me hit X to delete that. So I've got this face selected. I'm going to extrude it along the X. You see up here at the top, we're moving in negative direction, so I'm going to do it negative 1 inch. And then I'm going to take these two, and I'm going to move them down. So that basically, I've got more or less a 45-degree angle here. I don't want to bring this all the way down because I don't want like a knife edge there. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Take this guy, hold down shift to select multiple vertices. We're going to extend it along the X. This time you'll see we're in the top left corner, you'll see that we're going in the positive direction. So I'm going to do 1 inch. I'm going to select these, move them, hit G to grab it, move it down on the Z. I want to make it the same height as the other one, so I'm going to hold control. I'm going to snap it to that. Oops, I right clicked. So I want to make it the same height as this guy. If yours is not snapping to that vertex, it's because up here it's probably on increment. So select vertex and it'll let you do that. I'm going to tab out. Now, my split shot that we're using, I showed you earlier we're using number 3 split shot. Oops. Let's delete that. Shift A, we're going to create a sphere. And our sphere, with my micrometer, so split shot is 33. The radius of that is 165. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to put that hole over here. How many could I fit? Oh, that's going to represent my ballast. What I want to do is actually going to make it a cube. I'm going to add a cube. So what I want to do is I'm going to hit the / and it will focus on just the object we have selected, and it will temporarily hide everything else like that. I'm going to add a cube. 0.33, 0.33, 0.33. So I want to move this. I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to move this over here. But I want it to be centered perfectly on my sphere. Now, what we could do is we could take these locations, the X and Y, copy it, click over here, paste it, click over here, copy that. But an easier way to do it is to select the object you want to move, select what you want to move it to, and then over here in the object window, take this location, right click, and you hit copy all to selected. If you want to just do the X, you can hit that one, we're going to do copy all to selected. And it moves it right over there. So kind of same idea. I want to create multiples of these. This is going to need to be taller because we're going to put it in our block. I hit the / to bring us back into the view of everything. So I want to have this cut go all the way through. So let's make this an inch. It looks like when it looks funky like that, it's because those faces are laying on top of each other. But just to be sure, I'm gonna hit G, Z, and I'm gonna snap it to that. I wonder how many of these blocks I could fit inside this area. GX. Let's give it a 1/10 of an inch. How far over is that? Okay. G, Y, another 1/10 of an inch. We're probably gonna be able to get 4. You think? So let's duplicate that and move it approximately down here. Duplicate that, move it about down here. Duplicate that here. So we're going to move it along the Y. And okay. Oops. We want to move it a 1/10 of an inch up, or in the opposite direction. GY. There we go. GX. It doesn't have to be this close. You could move it around and just get it close, but I'm kind of I don't know. I'm a stickler for moving it. Just kind of having everything lined up right. We can get rid of this. So we've got 4 here, and again, I can't print it this exact same size of the object. It's just not going to work. So let's go with let's do it in increments of 5 again, right? No, we're going to do 1/10ths. No, do it in hundreds. 34. Oops, 34. And then we'll go 35. Did I make that one? Okay. 36. And then I'm going to do this on 37. So let's cut that. Again, we're going to select, I wasn't holding down shift, I was holding down caps lock, silly goose. Select all the things that we're going to want to cut, and then select the object that will be cut. Go to edit, and we're going to use the brush Boolean. Okay, so see how the bottom looks funky. If it will let me select all of these, that gives me the ability to just enough so that we're sure that we're cutting all the way through. What's wrong with you, guy? Oh well. Okay, so now we can apply all those cutters. Oh, I didn't have them all selected. Alright, so that's that. And then over here, actually what we can do, I don't think we're going to need to, so we're going to test the line ties, diamonds versus cylinders, both directions. We're going to test fitting the ballast in there. I wanted to have a little cutout piece, a 3D printed object that we could test fit into that. So actually, I think what I will do, let's select these. I'm going to get rid of this block. Hit X to delete. Delete those vertices. Now I need to close this back up. So I'm going to hold Alt, click on that, and then I'm going to hit F. And okay, so now we've got the block with that over there and this. And I'm gonna print an object to fit inside of here. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and make us another cube. This is gonna be 0.33, 0.33, 0.33. No, let's make it an inch. And we'll print this out so that we can check it in there. So we can see if it'll fit into any of these blocks. Okay, I think that'll do for that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna see how this scale is off here. I'm gonna hit apply scale, and the same thing here. We're gonna return these to 1. So select both your objects, hit Control A, and you can apply all transforms, and what it's going to do is going to make all this stuff to 0. Alright, just double check that it did do both of our objects, and we're going to export lures. Let's just put it in here, call it test block. And this piece we're going to do it. Test block dot fit. Fit cube. And then we're going to save this. Go up. And I'm going to call it test block. Save that. All right, we're coming up on 30 minutes, so I'll try to fly through the next part. Let's close this. Oh, we can minimize our calculator. My slicer that I use is Cura, so I don't have a Bamboo printer. I don't use Bamboo Labs. Not that I'm opposed to them, just I don't have one. So I'm going to show you how I do this in Cura. I would assume that most of it also applies similarly to Bamboo Slicer. So I usually print prototype lures in like 0.2 or 0.3 layer height, and I usually print, oh dang it, my final ones, like once I've got to a place where I like the prototype. Okay, so this, you see how that's huge, right? That's because when we were in Blender, we had the scene set to 1, and it kind of throws off the scale. Usually Cura will recognize that and shrink it down like it did for the first object. But you'll see it is to 1,000,000% of original size. That's silly. So really all we need is just 100,000% of original size, which is one less zero of silliness. Make sure that's on uniform scaling so it applies to all of them equally. So what I was saying is I do lure prototypes in 0.2 or 0.3 layer height so they print faster. And then I'll do the final one, if I really like it, I'll do it in 0.1 layer height. And, you know, something I've never thought about, but I think it would be a good thing to test would be, did these tolerances change between 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 layer height? And they probably do. So I think I'm going to print 3 of these. I'm going to print 3 of these. I'll print at 0.1 layer height, 0.2 layer height, 0.3 layer height, and then we'll go over that in the next video and see what came of that. And maybe we've got some new things that we can learn. So I'm going to move this guy away so they're not bumped into each other. If you are using Cura, you may know this, but you might not. I like to go down to special modes, and I like to print one at a time. If you print all at once, as you know, when you print multiple things on your, you have multiple things on your bed, it'll do this layer, then that layer, then that layer, like this. Right, so it's printing them both at the same time, and it'll be over here, and then it'll bounce over, go to that one. And depending on what filament you use, how dry you have it, it could create a lot of stringing in between here in each layer. I use PETG. I don't do a good job of keeping it dry, so I get a lot of stringing. But if Cura, I'm sure others do too, but here's where you find it in Cura. Print sequence one at a time. Set print sequence manually, and it just prints in whatever order the files are over here. Why is it gonna take so long? Oh, put one there, right? Okay. I use lightning supports. You'll see that there. Well, let's look. 0.1 layer height for this one. How many walls was it? Just 2? For now, yeah. When I print lures, I use 3 or 4 walls on a medium-sized or larger lure. Walls increase strength better than increased infill. I usually use my infill pretty low. This is the settings I just used on the last lure I printed. Is still here, other than the walls. I changed the walls earlier today when I was fiddling around with this. We're not going to need any support. Well, let's look at something here. I'm going to show you. That highlighted in red means that it needs supports. It wants supports, and if I have supports selected to print them, it's going to put them in there, unless I add a support blocker. But you see here, no support needed on that 45-degree angle up there. That's what we're hoping to be successful with by using these diamonds, or cubes, instead of cylinders. Alright, let's print it. We'll see. We'll get back to you guys in a little bit. Alright, so our calibrating test cube is done. Fresh off the printer, haven't done anything with it. So I'm printing PETG, and I print it on a bed of masking tape. Like, I have blue painter's tape across my bed. And this is the first time it's ever happened out of, I don't know, 100 prints where it lifted. It lifted a little bit in this corner right here, so the block isn't flat on the bottom. And it wasn't the print that lifted off the masking tape lifted off the bed. That tape's been on there for a while, so it may be time to change it. Maybe clean the bed well, put new tape down. I do print with a brim when I use PETG, first layer adhesion problems. I haven't done any post-processing. There's the stringing I was telling you about. And I could tell, set it in the camera. I can tell that I really need to dry my filament. Anyway, so We started with the diamonds over here. This was a 072, and we went up in steps of 005. So 72, 77, 82, 87, 92. And let's see. We're trying to figure out what's a good fit, what's not a loose fit, what's not too tight of a fit, because you don't want to guess and then spend a long time printing a lure and then find out that it's wasted. That goes in there a little bit, but not very far. So that's 72, 77, 82. That one with very little force goes all the way through. I usually like a tight. I prefer a tight fit for practical reasons, because you can hold the line tie while you have the lure and it's not glued in, and it'll hold it in place. But when you're using a cylinder, that leaves less room for the epoxy to spread out. So 72, 77, 82. See about 87. Oh yeah, that's all the way through. That's a little loose for my liking. Actually, that may work well also. It doesn't fall out. It kind of wants to though. And then 92 definitely fits in there. It would fall out of that. If this was on, if the lure was in here, the lure would fall out. The weight of the lure would fall off. So 72, 87, 82 is what I would use on that one. Let's check printing it horizontally. Vertical and horizontal are going to be different. No go. Kind of the same thing. I can get in there a little bit. If I forced it, maybe, but it's going to be tough getting it out. Yeah, 82. That's a pretty good fit. Sloppy. Yeah, you see it falls off. 92, same thing. It's going to fall off there. So, the same results, top and bottom, if I print it vertically or horizontally. Me personally, if I was using the cube, I would use 082 length on the edges. On cylinders, we started with 75, 80, 85, 90, 95. When I do a cylinder, I usually print it around 95 or 90, because that gives some room for the epoxy. What was this? 75, 80, 85. It goes partway in there, but not all the way through. If we force it, it may. 75, 80, 85, 90. Yeah, 90, 95 is what I usually print. Yeah, it's a little more loose, but not much. This is a more snug fit. If I was going to print cylinders, 75, 80, 85, I would go with 90. If I was printing cubes, I would go with 82. This is what I would go with. You need to come up with your own results and jot them down. Write them down somewhere. Either a notepad on your computer or pen and paper. That one's a lot tighter. That 95 there is really tough. Where it wasn't up here. That's going to be because of you remember Kira told us that we needed supports here. So there's a little bit of fail or something inside there. Didn't print very well. That's 95. This 90 went in better. So if I was doing cylinders, I would probably do 90. Horizontal or vertical. It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna go into 85. No, it's not. Okay, so for cubes, flying Sharpie marker. For cubes, I like this guy for myself. And for cylinders, I like this one. And same thing down here. I like number 3. And number 4. You can use these. It may work well enough on yours. I mean, now we're talking about, it's not like we're talking about half of a millimeter. This 5,000s, what does that? What does 5,000s look like? If we convert that, let's see. Five thousandths. Okay, that's a little more than a tenth of a millimeter. My metric to imperial conversions are not as good as they could be. So, like I said, you may want to go with what I use, or you may want to go up. It's definitely going to be better to be a sloppier fit, not too far, because you want it. You don't want it to get out of center. But any of these would work, but this is what I would use. 82 and 90. Now I'll do the split shot. Let me check it. This one, I was going to get the fresh one out of the bag, but this one, the one I had like in a scrap pile over here, got a micrometer. I'll check it with my mic. Make sure that it's not a different one. It was a little smaller. It may have been, oh yeah, I had squished that one with pliers to try to make it flatter. I'm glad we checked. Okay, so back to these, number 3, split shot. If you're curious, these weigh 2.6 grams per ball of lead. So at least on my scale, that guy is 2.6 grams. I'm gonna check this one with the mic as well. We get 31.3 that way, so 313 thousandths. This one's a little smaller. Okay. The ones I've checked 4 or 5 of them so far, and I got 33. This one's 30 one way, 31 the other way. Okay. So this could be smaller than average. Yeah. So this hole was 34, 35. Let me check on Blender real quick. Yeah, so it was 34, 35, 36, 37. 34, at least for that split shot, is definitely going to be loose. So 37. Let me try a different one. This is a new bag, so I'm sure the tolerance of lead diameter isn't that big of a deal at the factory. This is a new one, it's not open. So, well, the ones I measured 33 was a different bag. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so we can bring this down a little bit if we want to. We'll just leave it where it is. Maybe that gives it a little bit of rattle. Let's see if we dropped it in that one that was 36. Even. Yeah, you get a little bit of a rattle, a little knock, single knocker. If you went with that 36. If you went with 34, you're not going to be able to tell because my fingers are holding it. Alright, well. Important measuring your stuff before you print. If you don't have calipers or a micrometer, you need to get one. When you're printing any functional prints, you're going to be designing any, not printing, if you're going to be designing any functional prints. Because apparently even from one bag to the other bag, they aren't the same. You may want to err on the side of caution there and just go with a little bit larger, 33, 34, if you don't have something to measure. That way you know that yours will fit. But I want to see how well a printed piece fits into here. So this was printed at 34 by 34 thousandths, and then 340 thousandths by 340 thousandths, so 0.34 inches. That's the same as what the hole is, and it's not going to go in there, and we knew that coming into it. So this is 35. It should go in here. Yep. How wide does it say this is? A little bit undersized. I could probably do a flow calibration. My printer could use a flow calibration, well, it's within a couple thousandths, but it's undersized by a couple thousandths. So, this is supposed to be 34, this is 35. If I could half a thousandth, half 50 thousandths, so it's half 100 on either side, gives me enough room. So I have this rectangle now that I made 34 by 34, and it fits well into this 35 by 35 hole. It's not even tight. It's snug enough that it'll hold itself in place due to the layer lines. But if I put it over here, I didn't. I told you I was going to print 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and determine what the differences are. There will be a difference, I'm sure. But what I did for time's sake to get the video out, I went ahead and just printed the 0.2 for now. Here's the middle of the road. The 0.1 was going to take several hours. The 0.3 not too long, but I went ahead and printed just the 0.2. You need to print this block out at whatever layer line thickness you intend to be printing your lures at. So if you print your lures at 0.2 layer height, then print your block at 0.2 layer height. If you print your lures at 0.1 layer height so that you can get the most quality out of them, then print your block at 0.1 layer height. A lot of time when I'm doing prototypes, early design prototypes, I'll print at 0.3 just to test swim and fit and function. Well, really more function than fit. I showed you earlier when I used the nail that I use to hold on the line ties. I also use this as part of a hinge for swim baits or two-piece lures. And this is also a good fit check for it. So this is the 1.5". If you're going to buy these at Home Depot, or they might have them on Amazon, I don't know if this is a Home Depot house brand. An important thing to note is that once you go past 1.5 inches, the next size that I could find in the store, and this is pretty consistent over a year or two now, the next size up I find is 2 inches. I haven't found anything longer that is this profile, this type of head, and in stainless. The longest I've found is 2 inch, but the 1 inch and the 1.5 inch are a smaller diameter than the 2 inch. So if you're going to make a bigger lure, or if you're concerned about the strength of this, which you shouldn't be, they do have one that's a slightly larger diameter. Just understand that they're not mix and match. If you're using these in certain size holes, the other one is not going to fit. But you can use this block to check these nails too, if for later on when we're going to do 2-piece swim bait or a glide bait. I won't go in. So 72, 77, 82. So it likes the 82 hole as well. You could, that'd be too tight. So you could force it into that 77, but it's too tight. On the cylinders, at least, I guess maybe the same thing. Yeah, same size. This is a little bit larger diameter than the line tie is. Sorry. But this is smooth and tighter tolerance during the manufacturing process, I'm sure, just because of what it is. Whereas obviously we just made this on the bench. Yep, we won't go into the 77. Still have that slag or whatever you want to call it inside there where it didn't print well because we didn't have supports. It's like the same thing. So that is good to know. I can use the same size cube or same size cylinder for the line tie and for the hook hanger. The hinge. Alright, so take notes of what you had. You don't need to remember, number 3 or whatever, but in Notepad or in Word, or send yourself a text message or write it down on a sticky note that what dimension you get out of here, so that you can use that forever. As long as you're using the same 041 or whatever you're testing right now. Once you change to like they have like 031 or 035 diameter, or maybe you go to 060, then once the size of this changes, then obviously you'll need to put another calibration block. Okay, now we know what size to make our stuff. Let's move into designing our lure. Well, getting it ready to print. That video will be right here in the middle. I appreciate you guys' support so far, and I'm just doing this to help guys, and gals, show them how to do this in Blender. You can do it at home, software that doesn't cost you anything. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments or put it in the Facebook group. I'll show you. Well, if I know how to do it. I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to help. Y'all have a good day.